drinking water supplies, and a correlating 2.5 billion live without adequate water for sanitation. Obviously, you can kind of make that connection. Now, 3% of all water on Earth is fresh water. So you're looking from a kind of aerial or space view of the planet. A lot of it's blue, but that's all salt water, as we all know. So of that 3%, 68% of all of it is found into polar ice caps. And unfortunately, because climate change is occurring, all that ice is melting and is being put back into the oceans, and we're not going to be able to utilize that, amongst other issues associated with the melt. 30% of that 3% is found in groundwater. It's a little bit more difficult to extract groundwater. It's easy to contaminate it, but it is something that as we continue to go down the road, especially when it comes to giving fresh drinking water to cities and crops and things like that, or for agricultural purposes, we're depleting a lot of our groundwater supplies as well. So of that 3%, 2% of that is located in the Great Lakes. So that's not a lot of water. And that is a significant portion of the entire world's fresh water, which is about 20%. So, I'm sure that most of you know Cuyahoga County is up here in Cleveland, right on Lake Erie. As the health, well, a little bit of background on Cuyahoga County. We're about 787 square miles in terms of water area. So Cuyahoga County's boundary actually goes out to the international line in terms of under the lake. So we would, I guess, incorporate that water supply there in terms of this square mileage. We have about 1.3 million people living in the county. In fact, it is a significant population decrease, and in fact, we would only be second to Louisiana in terms of New Orleans and population decrease, and as you can tell, that's probably because of Hurricane Katrina. If you would add up the whole county together, we'd be about the 7th largest city in the country. Very urbanized. It's a decent size in terms of square miles. It's actually, I think it is the biggest county in the state. We get about 37 inches of rain per year. The General Health District itself serves about 830,000 people. If you add up all of the different communities in the county, we'll come up with, just somewhere like around maybe 59 communities or so. And that kind of gets, sometimes it's a little bit of a handful because each community kind of has their own way of doing things. So it's a little bit difficult. Each one has their own mayor and councils and regulations on doing things. So sometimes it gets to be a handful working with everybody. As I alluded before, I'm also the watershed coordinator for the Tinkers Creek watershed, and I kind of wanted to take a second to offer that when I came up here about 4 years ago. I'm from Columbus. I used to be a watershed coordinator for Big Walnut Creek, which is out on the east side of town, Gahanna area, and I got this opportunity to go up and interview with this health department, and I kind of said, what a great opportunity to, kind of expand my own personal profession, but also to kind of take this environmental twist to a health department. And through some of the discussions, it became quite clear that this was sort of an experiment to see how, so I guess I could be a lab rat, if you wanted to kind of assimilate that with me, as to how do we kind of intersect public health and environmental issues. And so, hence we started this watershed management program, and we'll get into this a little bit more. So, again, just another backdrop as to how watershed management or the environment, meaning the things out there, are impacting public health and the decisions that we're making. A quick backdrop on the watershed partners, the organization. We're a nonprofit organization, obviously advocate for water quality in the watershed. Of course, it's a small board. My job specifically was to create something called a watershed action plan, and that basically is to take a look at the issues going on in terms of water quality in a given watershed, and to come up with a document or approaches to solving water quality problems in that watershed, and bring that watershed, the whole body, into attainment of EPA water quality standards. So we're doing some different studies on wetlands, we're doing some stream restoration work and things like that. A lot of grant writing, as you can imagine. Again, this is all done from the Board of Health, but for the Tinkers Creek watershed. So I know I'm probably talking to most people who knows what a watershed is, but is there anybody who wants to offer to everybody what they think a watershed is? So anybody, please. Somebody knows. I guarantee somebody knows.
Certain area, a perimeter around which all water drains towards a
Exactly.
single source of water.
Is that what you were going to say, sir? Excellent. We're all on the same page. So a watershed then is an area of land that drains to a central location. So think of yourself as like a drop of water, and if you were falling from the sky and you were kind of on a continental divide, if you fell on one side of that divide, you would go to one, I guess, receiving body of water. If you fell on the other, you go to another one. Now, I also like to, actually, this is kind of taking a step back to what Representative Celeste had said about us kind of thinking short term and not long term. There's this whole kind of new thing called biomimicry, and I like to bring this into the discussion like this because all systems are kind of replicated with each other, and nature always has all the answers. It's just a matter of us trying to figure out whether we want to listen or emulate that. So this is just simply a picture of the back of a leaf, and as you can see, a watershed is very similar to just the vascular system in a leaf, but at the same time, it's also very similar to our vascular system in our body. So think of these little tributary streams, maybe like a stream that's going through your backyard or something that kind of just seems like a little ditch. Well, that actually has a significance, and that little capillary, if you will, is going to lead to a larger stream, which leads to a larger stream, which so forth and so on, until ultimately it goes to a largest body of water, which is sort of like the end-all receptacle of it. So in our case, we're in the Scioto River watershed, which flows to the Ohio River, which flows to the Mississippi River, which flows to the Gulf of Mexico, which is sort of like the dump, if you will, for everything that happens here all the way down in the Gulf of Mexico. In our situation, it's Lake Erie up in Cleveland because everything flows north. This is just a map of the lower Cuyahoga River. If you can remember, back in, 1969, but in previous years, the river caught on fire, which actually was a catalyst for the inception of the creation of the Clean Water Act. So, something great came out of that. I want you to kind of look in the sort of top right-hand area. It's all red. That's the Tinkers Creek watershed. Sort of, if I have another picture. It kind of looks like an oblong Florida kind of situation. But the point to showing you this map is that virtually the entire watershed is a non-attainment of EPA water quality standards. And this is due to all sorts of things I'll talk about in a moment. The causes of impairment from that previous map: organic enrichment, maybe too much, like if you have a house, for instance, that butts up against a stream or a river, and you decide, hey, I'm going to get rid of my leaves, I'll throw it in the creek, or if you have your grass clippings, I'm going to toss them back there. Well, ultimately, what that happens is that increases the nutrient load going into the stream, and when that decomposes, it removes all the oxygen out of the water. So if you're a little fish in there, you're not going to be too happy. Nutrient enrichment is always a big one, and if you live in a suburban area, you love having, or maybe not you personally, but people love having competitions with their neighbors about whose grass is greener. So they'll just inundate it with so much fertilizer. Well, your grass, just like us, can only drink so much or eat so much until we're full, and the rest of it is just going to go as a waste. So when it rains, all that goes back into the storm sewer system. How many people know where the storm sewer system ultimately goes? Can you tell us, sir?
Local creek.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's a misconception to think that the grates that you have out in your street ultimately go to the wastewater treatment plant. Well, in fact, it's gravity fed, just like those systems are, the sanitary system, but these go to your nearest stream, a river, sometimes a wetland, maybe back in the day, a lake, whatever. And everything from the surface will ultimately get washed out. So it's almost like flushing your toilet during a rain event. So all the impurities on the surface go into there, and you can imagine what it does to the stream. I have pictures of it for you if you can't imagine it. Other sources of impairment: toxicity in the streams because of some of the things that were going on. The number one leading water quality degradator, actually, ironically, is just simple sediment, mud. After a rain event, you drive over a creek or something, it looks like chocolate milk. Well, it's not supposed to be that way. But we've put too much water, which is yet another cause of impairment in our streams, by that storm sewer infrastructure. All this impervious land that used to be wooded, now the rain has to go someplace else other than falling or onto the surface and being absorbed into the soil, back into the groundwater supply and so forth. Well, it gets washed off. When we put too much water in the stream, it causes the stream to become channelized and not have access to a flood